Does a new Scream movie kill it or does it kill the franchise? Somewhere in between. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Our Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Scream 2022, or Scream 5, which is coming to theaters on January 14th, 2022. It's the fifth movie in the Scream franchise. It's been long dormant. So the last Scream movie, Scream 4, came out in 2011, and the very first Scream movie, the classic movie that kind of was foundational for a lot of horror fans, myself included, came out in 1996. So this movie comes out almost 25 years after the very first movie, the one that started it all, came out. And with this movie, you have some of the original cast returning. So you've already seen it in the posters and the trailers. You've got David Arquette, Courtney Cox, and Neve Campbell all coming back, reprising their roles. And there's a few other characters that come back as well. But my hot take on this movie is I actually didn't love it. I liked a lot about it, and I really liked the movie up until kind of I guess the third act is what you would call it. And then the ending just kind of felt a little frenzied, and it felt a little bit too on the nose. I didn't love the reveals. I didn't love the kind of the explanation. But you know what? That was just me. I think ultimately I would say this is a rental because it does a lot right, and it also has a lot of 90s feel from the original film. This movie felt a lot like the very first movie, especially at the beginning. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then I'm going to go into the ending. As you can imagine, there will be spoilers. I am going to try very, very hard to not have spoilers up until the ending so you can hear my thoughts first, and then if you really want to know the ending, you can know the ending. But my recommendation is don't watch it. Don't watch the ending information until the very end, until you've seen it, because there are some big reveals. There's some big plot points that have not been revealed. And so I think ultimately you should probably not watch the ending. But I'm going to put it out there because I know there's some people that really do want to know. Some people like to know before. Some people really want to test their theories. So it'll be there, but but my recommendation is to go in blind. As you'd imagine in a Scream movie, it's set in Woodsboro. There is a Ghostface killer. There are multiple killers. There are victims. It starts off in a similar way. The film has a lot of the Scream DNA in it because it's a Scream sequel. But that being said, they try to update it with modern times. So you have some more modern cell phone tracking things that are brought in. You've got some references to movies that have come out since the Scream movies came out. So you have a lot of interesting kind of balance here where it's trying to get that 90s feel and style with a more kind of modern era. And I thought that it was interesting how it did that. It was interesting how it tried to bridge that gap. But ultimately, like I said, I didn't really love the ending of this movie. So let's go to the things I liked. Things I liked about this movie. The first is the 90s feel at the start. I mean, this film really had it really felt like it was calling back to the original movies, especially in like the opening school scene. You had some styles that felt like they were throwbacks to the 90s. You had some 90s feeling music. You had a similar kind of high school horror feel with these kids that are kind of obsessed about the murders that are happening, obsessed with relationships, and trying to kind of worry about their social status and the ongoing murders that are happening. So put all this put together made the movie feel very much like the first movie at the start, which I really liked. I liked kind of going back to the I guess simpler times, slasher times, things like that. It was fun at the start. The second thing I liked about this film are the brutal kills, and especially at the start, there were some longer, drawn-out kills that felt like the movie was trying to put a stamp on it. Right, this movie had some very brutal kills, and like I said, towards the end, it gets a little more frenzied, but at least at the start, there were some that were very drawn out, had really good effects, and really kind of visceral, and had a very visceral feel to it. The third thing I liked a lot were the callbacks. I mean, this film has a lot of Scream callbacks. You've got the film set in Woodsboro. You've got some characters coming back. You even have some scenes that mirror some of the original scenes in Scream that I thought was a nice way to pay homage to that. But then also, if you're a horror fan, there's a lot of references to other horror movies and other properties and even other prominent horror figures. There's a horror movie lovers movie. There's a lot of fun banter and a lot of references to franchises outside of Scream that were fun to hear. So if you have a love of horror, there are definitely going to be scenes and conversations that put a smile on your face. The last thing I really loved is the tension. I mean, this is a horror movie, so there's always going to be tension, especially when a lot of times you're not sure if the killer's there, when he's going to appear. And so the film plays with that as well. Like, there's a lot of scenes where like a door will open, the music will build up, and you kind of expect the killer to jump out, and then the door will close and nothing's there. And the film does this multiple times in many of the kills, like a lot of very tense, fun buildup that if you're a horror fan and a fan of these movies, you are going to love. So things I didn't like, and again, I'm going to try to keep this spoiler free. The first is there is an early kill where the character should have known better and kind of should have, I don't know, anticipated this, but they didn't. And it's important for the story, but it felt like, I don't know, a little bit of a cop out early on. The second thing I didn't love is there is a frenzied third act, and the third, I mean, as a Scream movie, the third act always gets a little bit more crazy, but I felt like this film was trying to really build it up, especially at the start. They had a lot of very drawn out sequences, and then the third act, it just kind of goes off the rails. I know that that's kind of, it's not a surprise given how these films are set up, but it did feel like maybe there was too much time at the start kind of laying the groundwork, and then I don't know if they ran out of time or if they just wanted to kind of move everything along, but it got to the point where like sometimes I didn't know if some of the characters died in that last part, because you hear things or you see things, but you didn't get kind of a final resolution on some of the characters. Like I still don't know if some of the characters made it out. I think I had a good concept of it, but I did feel like that third act was very compressed, and maybe the editing made it a little bit confusing. I'm sure if I saw it again, maybe I would have a better sense, but I've only seen it once, so there we go. The last thing I didn't really love is the ending, and I'm going to go into that now. So if you don't want to know anything about the film, I've tried not to have any spoilers until now. Turn this off. Turn it off now, because there will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. So here we go. So what I didn't love about the ending, and I'm going to go into it, is it felt a little bit too on the nose. It felt like, I don't know, the justification didn't really sit well with me. It felt, I don't know, like it felt almost like a Scooby-Doo kind of ending at times. And also it felt like some of the comments and some of the ways that they were describing things, it felt almost like people in the Scream franchise are trying to vent their own frustrations and maybe trying to be a little bit too cute with some of their explanations and things like that. But you know what? Let's go into the ending. We'll see what you think. I don't know. I kind of left with a sour taste in my mouth. I think the thing that made me, I don't know, most concerned or felt worse for me is I actually didn't really care if there was going to be a sequel to this, because the ending just didn't really make me feel excited for the next one. I'm sure there will be a next one. You know, I liked the new characters, so if there is a sequel, I'm sure I will enjoy it. But the end itself just left kind of a sour taste in my mouth. So in the end, you have Sam, who's the new main character. You find out very early on that she is actually the daughter of Billy Loomis, the killer from Scream 1. She's kind of this secret daughter. She found out through reading her mother's diaries, and so she is the daughter of Billy Loomis, and that has kind of haunted her since she found out when she was a kid. And you find out in the movie that she has kind of visions of Billy, like he'll pop up here and there, and sometimes kind of like talk to her. It feels like maybe the stress of finding that out did something to her, but you find that early on. And so Sam, her sister Tara, who you also find out then is a half sister, and her boyfriend Ritchie are all fleeing Woodsboro because there was an attack at the hospital. They're kind of done with it. They want to get out of this town, so they start to flee. But Tara forgets her inhaler. She has asthma, and so they have to stop by Tara's friend's Ashley's house to pick up her inhaler. And also during this, Sidney and Gale are following them in their car. They're kind of watching out for them. And so they're following them in their car. We learn when they pull up that Amber is living in the original Scream house, like the original house that the big ending scene, the big murders took place in. That's where they end up. And it's actually a pretty fun reveal. Like you don't know about this until that exact moment. And then they pull up and you see the house, like the screen pans down and you see the full house. It was actually a pretty fun reveal. You also find out there's a party going on, which in normal Scream fashion, that's a bad idea. Something bad's going to happen. Someone's going to die. You know that's going to happen. So when they get there, when Sam, Tara, and Ritchie get there, they kind of break up the party. They tell Amber, like, we need your inhaler, or we need the inhaler. And so they also break up the party because they know, like, the killers are obviously following Sam and Tara around like that. They are kind of the central figure of this movie. And so by being at this party, they're worried about everyone's safety. So they break it up, tell everyone to go home. So with the guests all gone, you have kind of the main friend group all gathered together. And while they're there, one of the friends, Liv, runs in and she's like shaken up. She's got blood in her hand. She found a body, and they're all kind of like wondering, like, are you the killer? And she's like, I'm not the killer. And one of the friends, Tara's best friend, Amber, says, you're not the killer, I am. And she pulls out a gun and bam, off's Liv. And that kind of causes a panic. Everyone runs. I don't actually remember fully what happened in the scene, but it seems like everyone kind of separates. And I think someone hits Amber, or someone, knocks Amber down, and everyone separates. At this point, you have Gale and Sidney pulling up to the house, and they get out of their car, pop the trunk, and Sidney is packing. She has a couple pistols. She gives one to Gale. They're all ready to go, and they go up to the house. And as they're doing this, Amber runs out. She's kind of holding her side, and she's like, essentially, like, Ghostface is in there, and he stabbed me. And this was a really funny scene because Sidney looks at Gale and says, like, what do you think? And Gale's like, definitely a trap. And that's when Amber pulls out a gun and like shoots Gale in the stomach. And then Sidney tries to shoot her, but she misses, and they run inside. And the fact that there were guns in this movie, I know that I think Scream has had guns before. I didn't go back and rewatch all the movies. I've seen them all before. I didn't go back and rewatch them all. I just watched the most recent ones to refresh myself. But the fact that a lot of these end killings had guns involved, I don't know, it felt different than the original Scream movie. I think the original Scream movie was pretty much all knives. Maybe there was a gun here and there, but this movie had a lot more gunplay than I think I was used to. And I don't know, I guess maybe they're trying to update it, maybe make it feel more modern. But to me, it felt like it put a very different tenor on this film, especially this final encounter when you're worried about guns versus knives. So Gale's hurt. Sidney goes in and she starts kind of clearing the room. She shoots the doors to see who's there. And eventually she shoots the door and opens it up. And there is Ritchie, which is Sam's boyfriend. Who was hiding in the bathroom. She shot him in the leg. And when she's kind of making sure he's okay, Ghostface attacks her, and they struggle and they flip over the railing. She like throws Ghostface over the railing. They both tumble down. They hit the floor. Sidney's gun goes flying. And they're both hurt, and they're trying to go for the gun. Ritchie, who is hobbling now because he's shot in the leg, starts to go down the stairs to get the gun. So Sidney goes up to him, and Ritchie stabs her. Surprise, he's the other killer. Ritchie, who earlier had kind of no interest in horror movies, we find out that apparently he is a little more interested than we thought. So now you have people kind of gathered. I think Sam kind of came in and maybe attacked or something like that. Sam is here too. You got Sam, Gale, and Sidney. And Ritchie and Amber kind of explain their plan. And their plan essentially was they met on like some Stab movie forums. So Stab is the Scream movie in the Scream movie. When the movie is in the movie, it's Stab. It has similar scenes, similar characters, but it's kind of a funny, kind of low budget type remake. And what you find out is Stab 8 was, I guess, the most recent movie in the franchise, and it kind of went off the rails. They had some funny scenes about it, and it definitely looks a little more purged, a little less Scream. So Ritchie and Amber met on some sort of Stab movie forum and hatched this plan to reinvigorate the franchise. They were huge fans. They were sick of how the franchise was going, so they wanted to reinvigorate the franchise by essentially giving it a new story, making their own new Stab story that could then be used to plan more Stab movies. And so they wanted to go back to the roots. They wanted to go back to the original characters. And when Amber found out that Sam was the daughter of Billy, that kind of made it the perfect way to go back. They have Sam be the killer, and because she's like the daughter of Billy, it kind of all goes back, and it makes it for a perfect sequel. Amber found out, I guess, because it's a small town, people talk, people know things. But they also talk, and this is kind of what felt a little on the nose. I don't know, they talk about like how, they're why is this a bad thing to be a super fan? Like they're labeled as like toxic fans or toxic fandom. What does that even mean? And this whole sequence felt a little on the nose. I don't know, it felt like maybe the writers were trying to poke fun, or maybe trying to like I don't know, riff on things that maybe they've heard or seen. It felt a little weird. It felt a little off. I don't know. Maybe I just had the wrong viewpoint of it. Let me know what you think. And at this point, Amber goes to get Sam's sister because they want Tara to be part of this as well. And while they're having this, Ritchie tells her how easy it was to befriend her, how easy it was to get like in her life, and then also how easy it was to kind of convince her that. And he said, like, I even got you to believe that Tara might be the killer. And earlier, Sam had found Tara. She was all tied up, and you weren't sure like what she was going to do. And here's what she says, like, no, actually, I untied her. Then you see Tara with her crutch. I mean, she was previously injured, but she still moves around a little bit, but she has her crutch. She hits Amber and starts hitting Amber kind of I think in the Ghostface killer outfit. Like Amber's in the Ghostface killer outfit, and Tara starts beating her. At this point, a couple fights ensue. I don't remember exactly how it got to this point, but a couple of you get essentially two separate fights. You have eventually Amber fighting Gale and Sidney, and while they're there, Amber, she incapacitates Sidney and then tries to kill Gale, and she's essentially like, she's like, this is gonna be such an honor. Like, I killed Dewey, and now I'm gonna kill you, and that gets Gale to like fight back, and also Sidney gets up at this point, and they team up on Amber, take her down. Eventually, Gale shoots her, and Amber like sets herself on fire because the stove is on, and like goes up in flames. It's a pretty interesting scene, but also kind of crazy that she like went up in flames like that. And the other part of this, you have Ritchie fighting Sam, and Ritchie like is trying to get Sam, trying to like get on top of her. I think he had been hit or injured at some point, and so there he's not super mobile. He's trying to get on top of her to finish the kill. And Sam looks up, and like in a mirror, she sees Billy, her father, and he looks down, and there's like a knife behind the door. So she's kind of moving towards it. Eventually, though, Ritchie catches her, like gets on top of her, gets ready to kill her. But while Ritchie's on top of her, Sam looks at him and says, "I have a new rule for the movie: don't mess with the daughter of a serial killer." And then she stabs Ritchie with that knife that she got, and gets on top of him and like just goes to town. She stabs him with a frenzy that feels like Ghostface Killer, and I thought that was an interesting parallel because you've got essentially like she's the daughter of Billy. She has been worried about this aspect of her entire life, and now she's finally letting go, and she kind of frenzies on Ritchie. But she stops when he's dead, and Gale and Sidney go up to her, and they're like, "You always have to make sure they're dead," and they shoot him just to make sure. And so you think everything's done, both the killers are dead, but then you hear a scream, and Amber's running at them with a knife. She's like really burned, but she's up and running, and then boom, she gets hit. And you turn and you see Tara there with a gun. And so Tara ends Amber. Both the killers are dead. Everything's done. And I think the body count, I was trying to keep track, but it was tough at the end because I wasn't sure exactly who died and who didn't. I think the body count was at 7 or 8. So not a huge body count. They didn't like go off the rails. But again, the last kills did feel very frenzied, and the last kind of whole act felt a little rushed. So that's the movie. And then the very first line in the credits, it says "For Wes," which I thought was a very nice kind of touching call out to Wes Craven. It was a nice way to end the movie. And don't worry about sticking through. There's no scenes. There are some like character portraits that happen during the credits, but there's no final scenes. There's no stinger. When the movie's over, that's the movie. So don't worry about seeing there. But that's my review of Scream. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought when you see it. I don't know. I might be off base, but I just didn't love it as much as I kind of was expecting to. I was expecting to really love this movie, but overall, it felt almost like it was too much of a middle ground. Like they brought back all the classic characters, which was kind of necessary for marketing. But they didn't have a huge role, but those classic characters also kind of took away from these new characters really getting a lot of screen time and a lot of kind of development. So it almost felt like you didn't get enough of these new characters, which might be why I'm not really that excited about a sequel, because I don't feel like I know these new characters as well as the original ones from the original Scream. But again, we'll see where it goes. I'm sure there will be a sequel. I'm sure the movie will do fine, and so we'll probably have a Scream. I don't know, that would be 6. Maybe they'll make it Scream 6. Maybe they'll make it Scream again. I don't know what they'll say, but so we'll see what happens then. So thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.